Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. And my special thanks to DY Patil College of Engineering, Pune, for inviting me in this seminar. And my special thanks to Professor Vijay Vadhai sir, Professor Kulkarni sir, Dr. P. Malati, and the whole team. Many thanks. So now we will be talking on technology disruption mainly in context of education 4.0 and industry 4.0. So I will be giving you some introduction of education 4.0 and this industry 4.0 and what is technology disruption and why it is important for us. So you can contact me. This is my email ID. In any query, for any query, you can contact me on this email ID. So these are some of the points that we will be discussing. Disruptive technology, disruption versus innovation, industrial revolution, industry 4.0, education 4.0, disruption technology in education, Bloom's digital taxonomy in context, very little I will be discussing, and what are the tools that we can use here and the major challenges that we are facing in this particular thing. So first of all, a very common thing is disruptive technology. When we talk of disruptive technology, this word is very confusing. When we talk of this word disruptive technology, then simply came to mind that it is something related to destruction. But it is not the case. This term actually was coined in 1995 by Harvard Business School professor M. Christensen. So disruptive technology, in which sense this is disruptive? This is disruptive in the sense that it destroys the existing technology. It displaces an established technology and shakes up the existing system or creates a completely new system. It is in no way negative term. It is very positive term. We get the chance to use the new system according to our new requirement. So it sweeps away the systems or habits it replaces because it has attributes that are recognizable, superior. To give some very simple example of this, I have very common example. For example, nowadays we are using Wikipedia. Earlier we were using traditional encyclopedia, but now we are not using these traditional encyclopedia. We are using Wikipedia. Another example, mini computer, mainframe computer, we are not using. Now we are having personal computers. Everyone is using personal computer, and not even personal computer. In many of the cases, we are using our Android device, mobile devices for many use that we were earlier doing using personal computer. Similarly, USB device in place of CD, floppy drive we are using. A very common example is earlier we were using CRT in our TV, in our computer monitor, etc. But now we are not using. We are using LCD or LED display. So these technology that we are using now, LCD or LED in place of CRT, the CRT is now we are not using. So this is due to the disruptive innovation, disruptive technology that we are using. Another example, vacuum tube we were using earlier, but now we are not using. We are using many other devices in place of vacuum tube. Then for video, earlier we were using like a CD or other thing, but now like Netflix, we are having streaming video. Another very good example that you can see is use of digital camera. Many of you may be familiar with the term Kodak that you are using photography earlier, but now you will not find the Kodak anywhere because the invention and the use of digital camera has completely removed this Kodak thing, and now everyone is using this digital camera. So the main important property of a disruptive technology is that it has the power to change the way we work, we live, we think, and we behave. As for example, I am sitting in Guna, Madhya Pradesh, and I am talking to you. You are across the country, you are outside the country also, but we are able to talk even in the situation of this COVID. That is due to only due to the technology that we are using, internet, that is also one disruptive technology. So how we work, how we live, how we think, how we behave, everything is now changed by using this type of technology. So there are two terms now, disruption and innovation. If we are doing something new, that is innovation. There is a little difference, not very clearly, we cannot clearly differentiate between these two. But the innovation, what is innovation? If we are doing something new for a change, that generally we call as the innovation. As again, I take a very simple example. We are using this mobile phone. So are you using this as a phone only? I think no, you are not using as a phone. If you compare with the previous phone, then you are using this phone obviously to talk to each other. Obviously, you are using this phone as torch also, as radio also, as camera also. And many of you may be using this phone today now for this online lecture also. So what is the innovation? The innovation is that how we have combined all these things into one. So this type of thing is actually known as the innovation. And when we call this as disruption, disruption means it is changing the way completely. It is changing the way, and now we have stopped working on some previous technology that we are not using. In that case, this is known as disruption. So this disruption is always an innovation. So innovation is superset and disruption is our subset. Innovation is change, usually a positive change, something that improves an already existing product or service, or one that makes things better, easier, more convenient, or more affordable for the end user. Some other differences that you can see on the slide between disruption and innovation. As I told you, disruption displaces, innovation does not. So disruption, if we are using any disruptive technology, so it displaces the complete way the previous technology. But innovation generally is the improvement. Disruptors are innovators, but not all innovators are disruptors. So disruption is the creation of something new that displaces the old. Innovation can be incremental and inclusive. Disruption cannot, because disruption demands that the incumbent be unseated. So this is very important point, very important difference between disruption and innovation. As you can see in this slide, these are some words which today in today's life we can find out, and all these are disruptive technology. These are affecting our daily life, like Internet of Things, robots, drones, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, blockchain, virtual reality, augmented reality. These are some terms that today, in today's technology, we are using all these things, and these are affecting the way we are working in one particular area. So if I come to industrial revolution, and actually whatever we are doing today, we are talking of the education 4.0. So why we are talking education 4.0? What is the use of education 4.0 and how we can relate with industry 4.0? So for this, we see this diagram. Initially, we have industry 1.0. As you can see here in industry 1.0, we have actually mechanization. It started around 1784, mainly by the innovation of steam engine by James Watts. So after this innovation, the industries mainly were started. And this term, this is known as industry 1.0. So there was the manual labor was in the demand in this case. And after this mechanization process, then new machines were created. The workers were migrated from villages to the cities mainly because the industries were established in major cities. This shift moved from agriculture to industry in this industry 1.0. Then around 1870, Industry 2.0 era started. What was in this 2.0, and we today also have the effect of this industry 2.0. Mass production started, assembly line were there, we required workers expertise in their own role to play in production line. So this production line is very important, and that is we will relate with the education 2.0. And what we are doing today also, we are mainly following this particular process that we were using in industry 2.0. As you can see in industry 2.0, what we have, we are having the production line. And you know what is production line? Instead of completely manufacturing one product, there was one line that we call as the production line. From one particular part was assembled, then it was shifted to the next one in the this assembly line, then to the next one in the assembly line, and then to the next one. Obviously it improved efficiency and it was low cost, but for every particular part, for every particular in this step, every particular step in the production, in this production line, we require experts, particular experts for that particular thing. For example, in the car, we started from the chassis, then we sent to light part, then we sent to some other part. So for the chassis part, only the expertise required were only those persons. So what we started in this particular industry 2.0, we started generating the expert of one particular part type thing. Then industry 3.0 started in around 1970 by the invent of computers. So these rigid systems of production line became little bit flexible, and computers were spread across all industry, whether in agriculture, banking, industry, everywhere there was the use of computer in the industry. Then in industry 4.0 that we are having today, we are now having the internet, and internet is actually connected computer. From any location, you can monitor things, you can control things. So these are some terms which are very buzzwords in industry 4.0, cyber physical systems, internet of things, and basically this network. So world become a very smaller place, remote working, remote talking, remote class that we are doing. All these are due to only this invention of internet. So this basically industry 4.0, this we also use the term fourth industrial revolution. We use this term transformation of industry through the intelligent networking of machines and processes with the help of information and communication technology. So that we are in today industry 4.0. Now I come to this education 1.0. So what is education 1.0? In this case, as I told you, the factories were started and no particular experts were required. So in this particular area, everyone was not given the chance of getting education. Education was a luxury created mainly for the rich. Education was not necessary. Whatever we were taking in the factories and that particular era, whatever we require only the labor without any particular technical knowledge. So young children were forced to work instead of going to schools. They were forced to go to the work, and they were obviously working under challenging conditions and without expectation from society that parents or employers would educate children workers or child workers. So this was in the era of education 1.0. Then in education 2.0, as I told you, there was the assembly line and we require expert for one particular step in the assembly. So it required a more advanced type of workers knowing how to read and write. So some education, we were using the word that he is educated. So educated means at that particular time was there that a person was able to read and write. And then there was a need for those specialized workers to train people to be efficient production line workers. This education system was constructed according to those workforce expectations that still exist in spirit today. As I am telling, we are now in the education 4.0, but at this particular point of time also we are using like education 2.0, which is similar to production line. We are working in a single path. We are in class 1, then we are going to class 2, simply a particular syllabus is there, then we are going to class 3, 4, we are going like this. So like a production line in that particular industry, we are doing in this education 2.0. So a student is coming completely blank, he enters school completely blank, and then we are actually assembling. And what is the role of teacher? The teachers are like that I am the teacher of biology, I am the teacher of mathematics, I am the teacher of sociology, whatever subject is there, and I am only giving the knowledge to the student of that particular area only. So this is education 2.0, and in most of the cases now we are changing. AICT is also changing. They are also giving many instructions like CBCS, as you know what is CBCS, choice based credit system. So that is actually the move from education 2.0 to 3.0 and then 4.0. So in this case, we are actually working in the way of that particular industry 2.0 only. We are actually that very common thing that educational institutes taught knowledge. The teacher fed them information in specific subjects, and other important point is that the student was tested to evaluate in our traditional examination system that we are doing today also. We want to evaluate whether they remember what we have taught or not. So this is important point. This fostered a rigid framework of study disciplines, education standards, and as I told you, in the similar way as in a production line. Then education 3.0 started along with industry 3.0. Computers appeared, computers were invented, and we started using computers, and we also integrated computers in the education system. We created courseware, but the main important thing, even in the case of education 3.0, was that this computer use was only for some specific uses. It just transferred the second industrial revolution state of mind to computers without a revolution. We didn't actually use the computers in all the aspects of our education 3.0. Then today we have education 4.0 along with industry 4.0. As we need now in this particular moment of time, students needs to be transformed from being a passive recipient of information to active participant in a personal learning process. So this point is important, personal learning process. Students should construct their knowledge actively rather than just mechanically ingesting knowledge from the teacher or a textbook. We have to create the workforce so they are actually problem solver, and they can be used in any particular situation, and then they can contribute to the society. Even in this education 4.0, internet didn't change the education paradigm completely. Now it is changing. Even in this duration of COVID-19, we have seen that this actual education 4.0 has changed. Now we have moved in this particular situation in education 4.0. We are using internet for many things, for long distance learning, to communicate as we are communicating at this particular point of time. So at this moment, there is the need of changing this particular thing completely and benefit from the computers and the internet. Otherwise, we will remain stuck in the second industrial revolution only. So to create proper education 4.0 approach to match the industry 4.0 revolution, the education paradigm of the 21st century must change. So what is the need of today? Because the technology is changing, there is information overload. So students need to be trained and not taught. This is important point. And the complete focus is on this particular point, that students are not taught. We have to train them. Information, earlier we were giving the information, we were teaching them, and the students were learning only all those things only. But now at this particular moment of time, we have to provide the information, and the students need to learn how to find out, rather than the teacher offering it to them in a rigid structure. Another important point, students are not alike. Every individual student is of a different particular type. He has its own capabilities, abilities, and so we have to guide them to develop their skill rather than teaching them everything in a particular manner. So there is not any magical way. We require some disruptive technology, and by using disruptive technology, we should change our usual policies, practices, and assumptions. So a disruptive tool, if we are using, it will force new thinking and new approach to ensure student learning in higher education. So if we talk of disruptive technology in education, then actually there are two dimensions of this disruptive technology in education. One is what we teach, means technology, what technology we are teaching to students. And the second dimension is how we teach, means what particular technology we are using as a teacher. So in this case, what we teach, which particular technology like artificial intelligence we have these days, we have IoT, right? We have data science, all these new technologies are there. And today morning, I was also viewing the website of this DY Patil College, and I found that they have started one course as per AICT in artificial intelligence and data science. So this is important. So this is what we teach. So it depends on that particular thing, what technology is coming. So we should able to teach, we should change our course curriculum, our complete course structure in such a way that whatever new technology is coming, we should be able to teach our student that particular technology. The second thing, second dimension is how we teach, that is the technology to teach us what we are using, what particular technology we are using. As for example, today we are using this Google Meet. So this is the technology, we should know that how to use this particular technology. Many other things like how to use YouTube, Google Docs, Facebook, you are using Moodle. So this is the technology, disruptive technology, that we should know how we teach as a teacher. So as I told you, what we teach, we should focus as on today, may not be tomorrow. Focus today on smart technology, IoT, artificial intelligence, data science, robotics. So these are the things, and our universities and institutes should be able to teach all these things to the students. So we should change our curriculum periodically. We should change the approach of learning altogether, and we should use all these technologies also to improve the university experience. Then how we teach. So as today also we are using, these days we are also using the traditional way of teaching. The complete class is there of 60 students or 90 students, all are sitting in the class, no interaction. A teacher is teaching, he is the single source of knowledge, and all the students are getting the same thing, the same content, everything same there. So this is the way, and actually this was education 2.0, not education 4.0. Education 4.0 environment must foster discussion and teamwork. So this is very important, and in this discussion and teamwork, it involves collaboration with peers, experts, teachers, and obviously administrators also. So deeper fusion of technology is required in the teaching process, right? Again, important, this now we are talking of the teaching process, how we are teaching, what particular technology we are using for teaching. So if we talk of Bloom's digital taxonomy, so it is little bit changed. So in creating, evaluating, analyzing, applying, understanding, remembering, at every point of time, now we have different type of tools, digital tools available. Many of you are using these type of tools. So this is very important, that what particular tool is required, like Twitter, Moodle, Facebook. So these are some terms, as you can see. These are some disruptive innovations in education. This is a very small list. Many other things are there. Internet, Wikipedia, blogs, social media, right? Open source tools, open education. So all these things, creative common thing. Google has a large number of tools that we can use in this education 4.0. Free software, digital cameras, cloud computing, right? So all these are some words which are actually disruptive innovation in education. Now the important point is how to manage disruptive innovation in education. As the previous speaker was discussing, and there was a poll related to the efforts by teacher, and there was some negative feedback in the case of more efforts by teacher. Obviously, more efforts by teacher are required. So that is one particular issue here, that how to manage disruptive innovation in education, because students are not same. Every student is having its own capability. So it is not expected that we should teach same to every student, right? We should be able to give every student a personal experience, a personal way of teaching them, a personal thing that they should be able to understand. Role of the education system is to help students identify the field in which they are suited and help them to excel at it. Student possess multiple intelligence and can use any of them to actively acquire knowledge. So everything in this case, we will find that everything is focused on the teacher. So teacher needs to be trained to build new curriculum and how to offer this personal journey depending on the particular student requirement. So all these things, everything, every responsibility is on the teachers. We have to learn these technologies. We have to learn how to use these technology, how to assist students in this particular case. And last point important in this slide, teacher role becomes a part of the students' personal journey towards being an education 4.0 mentor. So important point here is project-based learning to highlight the importance of studying a wide set of skills that can then be applied to each scenario, as opposed to sticking to a set of skills directly linked to a specific job role. Again, approach to exam and assessments need to change, moving from the traditional method of absorbing and relying a vast amount of information skills not as necessary in the future. We have to use the advances in analytics. We have to treat each student as an individual. Another important point is there is a need of customizable degree that we have mainly in the case of the CBCS also. As you know, in CBCS, a student of computer science can take any course of mechanical engineering. A student of mechanical engineering can take any course of like chemical engineering. So this is very important. There is a need of customizable degree whereby a student does not have to pick just one or two subjects to study, but can select modules from multiple programs. So this is important. We have to create more versatile, well-rounded students who can adapt themselves to various career options, something that will be extremely valuable in the future. As earlier also we discussed, there is a possibility that what technology we are having today, tomorrow we may not be having the same technology. It is fast changing, constantly changing in this case. So there is a need that our students should be able to cope up with that change also. We should make them in such a way so that whatever technology is changing, they should be able to use that technology also. And for this, obviously, the universities must evolve and accept that change to some traditional processes. So these are some other point that we have: incorporating and providing requisite resources and funding, real and innovative mix of the digital with the face-to-face learning experience. Obviously, we cannot have 100% online, 100% digital. Face-to-face learning is also required. So we have to find out various ways how this digital thing, online thing can be combined with face-to-face learning experience. Cultural shift.
Yes.
Okay. Very sorry for disruption in this. That is also one important point in this area, that we should be able to manage all these things. So only 2-3 slides are remaining, and I am very sorry for this that I could not complete. So we were discussing about this, that there should be the mix of this digital medium with face-to-face learning experience. And important is cultural shift, which essentially means the readiness of the students, faculty, and staff to fully and meaningfully embrace the digital medium, while at the same time making the transition least disruptive. Because there is the transition, and very simply I say, as all of you may be knowing Newton's third law. What is Newton's third law? What Newton's third law says? Newton's third law says that a particular thing and any object wants to remain in the position that that particular object is. So that applies to us also, to our students and the teacher. There is the resistance to shift from one particular mode of instruction, from one particular model, to shift to the another model. As at this particular situation also, when we are changing all these things to the curriculum and all those things, then we find from many teachers that there is some resistance, that they do not want to change. So that is very important thing in this particular case. So resistance to changing existence models is there. And as we discussed earlier also, that the faculty has to work hard, and therefore the resistance also from the faculty there, because whatever slides they already have, we want that we go to the classroom and we show our PPTs without making any change and all those things, and we deliver whatever we have. And for years and years we want to deliver all those things without any change. But in this case, obviously, the change has to be there. Everything has to be dynamic. So there is resistance. In this case, operational processes are some problems. As today also, there was some problem even in my talk, due to the electricity and all those things. So all these we have to consider. Redefinition of students' role and the whole process of instruction. Main thing is that the universities and other higher education institutes have to rise to the occasion and meet the demands that this new model of learning might place on them in terms of infusion of new ideas, policies, and funds. So obviously the funds are also required for all those things. Policies have to be changed, and obviously the new ideas are also required. Finally, important is, it is not computer use, but how computers are used that makes disruptive innovation possible in higher education. So we have to see that in this education 4.0, how we have to make use of computer as well as internet. Again, in the end, my thanks to Dr. Padhai and Professor Kulkarni for giving me a chance in this, and the thanks to the complete team, organizing team of this DY Patil College of Engineering. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for elaborating on disruption is a innovation, and innovation is a positive change, and changing the education's rigidity scenario. I think we all could experience the disruption, and sir returned back with a positive attitude. So once again, thank you so much, sir, for the nice explanation.